Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and I, and today we're diving into, well, a blog post actually by Mr. Len Kaplan.
Yeah, one
He's
cover.
the CEO of CDML, and they're, well, CDML is an MSP in Queens, New York,
Oh, wow.
offering, well, they offer a lot: network management, VoIP and UCAS, cybersecurity, compliance, IAS, cloud, and Microsoft 365 and Azure. So if you're a small business owner or, if you manage IT for a growing organization, this deep dive should be pretty interesting for you. Stay tuned.
Okay, so Len Kaplan over at CDML, he's raising a pretty interesting point, I think, at least, for small businesses. And that's, well, the idea that the U.S. Department of Justice might request that Google, sell off its Chrome web browser. I mean, that sounds like, that could really have some implications, right? Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially thinking about running a business, and it seems like one of these, big tech things that's, happening way out there. But it's pretty fascinating to think about how this potential move could actually, really touch on your daily operations, especially if you're using Chrome a lot.
Yeah.
If it's central to how you and, your team does things.
Exactly. So what we want to do in this deep dive is, take you beyond the headlines and really help you, the small business owner, understand what this could mean for you. And really importantly, what practical steps you could think about taking to make sure, everything keeps running smoothly no matter what happens.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we're all about actionable insights here.
Right. Yeah. So let's maybe step back and think about why this is even, on the table at all. So the DOJ's concern, and Len Kaplan talks about this in the blog post, stems from, these antitrust issues. And the argument that's being made is that, Google's really strong position in, the search engine market. Well, the argument is it might be getting an unfair boost from them owning the Chrome browser, which is so widely used.
Right.
And that could create, what are being seen as these monopolistic behaviors.
So if Google was forced to actually sell Chrome, how could that, impact a small business that uses it, really constantly?
Right.
Like for many of us, it's basically how we get online.
That's a really good point. So let's connect that to how deeply integrated Chrome is with, these other Google services that your business might rely on every day.
Right.
So think about Gmail for a minute. Right now, the way that Chrome and Gmail work together, feels pretty seamless. But, if they were to become separate entities, well, that tight integration could definitely see some friction. It's not necessarily saying that things would just, stop working, but that ease of use that you're used to, that could definitely change.
So like maybe you wouldn't get those automatic sign-ins across, all the different Google services that you're using, or maybe, shared settings might not sync as smoothly.
Exactly, yeah. And it goes even beyond Google's own, services too. Kaplan's blog post, he makes a really good point, I think, about these third-party plugins and extensions that are out there. A lot of small businesses rely on these for very specific tasks. And he gives the example of eClinicalWorks. And you can imagine if a large chunk of their users are accessing it through the Chrome browser, well, any big changes to Chrome, could really affect how well it works, at least until those developers can adapt.
That's a really good point. I mean, we use a couple extensions here for things like managing social media and stuff, and just quickly getting into some of our tools. So yeah, those might need updates, or they might not work as efficiently on a different version of Chrome. Or even a different browser altogether.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's something that we just don't even think twice about a lot of the time. Chrome's built-in password manager.
Oh, yeah.
Super convenient, for keeping track of all your logins. But if it becomes a separate company, well, the way that it handles and integrates all those passwords, particularly with your Google accounts, could absolutely be affected.
So even something like, as basic as logging into our regular online accounts, day to day, that could even become more complicated.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Definitely something worth preparing for. Now, it's super important to remember, and Kaplan points this out too, this whole DOJ request is just that. It's a request.
Right.
Google they're gonna challenge it. But, as a business owner, it just makes good business sense to take a few proactive steps, just in case.
Okay, so what are some concrete things that we should all be thinking about doing right now to get prepared for this?
Well, the first step, and I think this is really important, is to start thinking about diversifying how you manage your passwords.
Yeah.
If you're only relying on that built-in Chrome system, which I get it, it's easy.
Right
It's
then.
really easy.
Yeah.
But it could put you in a tough spot if things were to change. So Kaplan suggests that looking into, a dedicated third-party password manager, right now
Mm.
could be a really smart move.
Okay, so you mean something like LastPass, Dashlane, or Bitwarden. He mentioned those. What makes those better for this type of situation?
Well, these tools usually have, more comprehensive features, and that includes, stronger security measures. But the really big advantage here is that they work across all the different browsers. So if you decide, down the road to try a different browser, you can take your passwords with you
Mm-hmm.
really easily.
Mm.
And importantly, they make it really simple to export, all your passwords from Chrome, right now.
Okay, so for anyone listening, a practical first step is to check out one of these password managers. LastPass, Dashlane, Bitwarden. See which one, seems like a good fit for your business. And maybe even look into how to export your current passwords from Chrome. I mean, it's kind of like creating a portable backup for all your digital logins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second actionable step is to really sit down and take stock of all the Chrome extensions and plugins that are
Yeah.
really essential to your daily operations.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones do you and your team depend on, every day?
Yeah, that eClinical Works example, that was a
Good.
good one. That really shows you how much, some businesses really might depend on some of these specific, browser-based tools.
Exactly. Yeah. So make a list of all those really critical extensions, and this is key. Reach out to the companies that make them. Ask them what their plans are if Google does sell Chrome.
Hmm.
Are they going to make it compatible with other browsers? Do they have, other options? Maybe a standalone application. Getting that information now, that could really save you some headaches down the line.
So action item number 2 is to, create that inventory of your must-have, the things that you can't live without, Chrome extensions. And really start those conversations with the vendors, make sure you understand what their contingency plans are.
Yeah, for sure. The third step to consider is starting to explore other web browsers. And this isn't about, dropping Chrome today. It's more about getting familiar with what else is out there, just to have that backup.
Right, yeah. Just seeing how other things work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kaplan, he mentioned Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and, for those of you on Mac, Safari. So the thing to do here is to actually go ahead and test your most important web applications, the ones that are essential to your business, and see how they run in those other browsers. Does everything work like it should? That way, if you do need to make a change, later on, it won't feel like a fire drill.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having, an emergency contact list. You hope you don't need it, but it's good to have it, just in case.
Mm.
So action item 3, spend some time testing your key business websites and applications, in Firefox, Edge, Safari, just to see how they work.
Exactly. The fourth area to think about is really where all your data is stored, for your business.
Mhm.
So if you're using Google Drive a lot, especially if you're using it, a lot through the Chrome browser, well, now might be a good time to start thinking about diversifying your cloud storage, just a little bit.
So not having all your eggs in one basket, not relying on one ecosystem, for everything.
Exactly. Explore some of the other reputable cloud storage providers out there.
Yeah.
Microsoft's OneDrive, Dropbox. These are popular options, and this is maybe the most important part. Make sure you have a solid data backup strategy,
Yeah.
and make sure it's completely separate from Google.
Okay.
So that way, no matter what happens with Chrome, your important business information, it's safe.
Action item number 4, take a look at your cloud storage situation. If you're using Google Drive as your main solution, maybe explore OneDrive or Dropbox. And really importantly, make sure you have a totally separate, independent backup of your key data.
Yeah, and then finally, and this is something that's going to be ongoing, to stay informed about this whole situation, the Google antitrust case and any potential requirements for them to sell off Chrome. This is going to continue to develop.
Right. So keep an eye on those, the reliable tech news sources.
Exactly. Yeah. Check in with reputable tech news, outlets, websites, whatever, for updates on the case and any potential implications for businesses like yours.
Uh-huh.
This will really help you stay ahead of the curve, anticipate and respond to anything big that happens.
So action item number 5, and this is an ongoing one, make it a habit to check, those trusted tech news sites for updates on this whole Google situation.
Right. Now Len Kaplan, in his blog post, he briefly mentions how CDML can actually help businesses navigate these types of changes.
Okay.
For example, they can help with choosing and setting up those third-party password managers we talked about.
Right. Which could be, a real a real time suck and kind of confusing too, right? I mean, if you're a small business owner and you're trying to do it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they can also help you figure out, how much you depend on Chrome specific features and suggest, some workarounds if you need them. And as an MSP, that's really focused on cybersecurity, they can make sure that your data is secure, through any of these transitions. So their expertise in helping businesses keep up with all this changing technology, I think that could be really, really valuable in situations like this.
Yeah. So if you're feeling a little lost about how to approach this, reaching out to a managed service provider, like CDML, that could be a good move.
For sure. So
Yeah.
so just to wrap things up, I think the key takeaway here is that it pays to be prepared.
Right.
The world of technology is constantly evolving,
Right.
and taking even just a few steps now, even though we're not really sure what's going to happen, that can really help your business stay resilient,
Right.
and secure.
Yeah. So for you, our listener, our final thought is just this. Think about the parts of your business that really rely on that Chrome browser, and just choose one of the action items that we talked about today and start looking into it. Even taking that one small step can make a big difference down the road.
Totally agree. And as we all, continue to navigate these changes, these ongoing changes in the tech world, just remember that being informed and being prepared, that's the best way to protect your business and make sure that it, continues to be successful.